But the fact remains that at the state level, Democrats are continuing their war on tests that measure basic competence. In fact, they're escalating it to a whole new level in some cases. The most recent example comes from the state of New Jersey, which has just eliminated a requirement that aspiring public school teachers pass a literacy test before they can be hired. Yes, teachers no longer have to demonstrate that they can read before becoming a teacher. And in this case, the change actually took effect with a lot of Republican support, too. Quoting from Fox News, teachers in New Jersey will no longer be required to pass a basic reading, writing, and mathematics test to be eligible for public schools, according to a new law. Act 1669, which was signed into law by Governor Phil Murphy in June, went into effect on Wednesday at the start of the new year. The law aims to tackle teacher shortages. The text of the law reads, the State Board of Education shall not require a candidate seeking a certificate of eligibility or a standard instructional certificate to complete a Commissioner of Education-approved test of basic reading, writing, and mathematics skills, including, but not limited to, the Praxis Core Academic Skills for Educators test. So, what exactly is on this test? One former teacher who now works with the group called Parents Defending Education says that it's not especially rigorous. Watch.
And I would also just say, having taken one of these tests, I think back in 1998, these are basic skills tests.
I was going to ask you, what is on these tests? Because it says basic, and I'm just thinking of basic. What are we talking about here?
So back when I took it in 1998 in Massachusetts, it was called a communication and literacy test. The test that New Jersey had is called the Praxis. So it included basic literacy, which meant reading, writing, and math. But again, these are low rigor tests. This is not, we're not talking about the LSAT here. And so the fact that the failure rates on these tests have been so high for so long, that is a problem. But that's really an indictment of not only the education system that these aspiring teachers are coming out of, but the colleges of education that give them a degree, even though they're not remotely qualified, they can't even pass, these basic minimum requirement tests.
Now, she goes on to say that the teachers union have always wanted to get rid of tests like this because they don't really care about educating students. They just want to get more dues-paying members. But she did admit that she took the test a long time ago. So let's pull up some current sample questions from this Praxis test for educators, just like we did with the firefighters exam a few months ago. People were saying online that it's basically a 6th grade level test, but I wanted to verify that. So here's one practice question from the mathematics section of the test. Let's all take a look at this together and see if we could qualify to teach at a New Jersey public high school. Actually, to see if we're overqualified, because teachers there don't even need to pass this test anymore. So here's the question. And I promise I'm not making this up. It's directly from a practice test for the educators exam hosted on study.com, which is apparently the gold standard for preparing for this test. And I'll put it up on the screen so you can see it as well in all its glory. Quote, if it takes you an hour to bike 20 miles, what is your unit rate? A, 20 miles per hour. B, 1 mile per hour. C, 40 miles per hour. D, an hour per mile. So I'll say that again. If it takes you, because you might be law because this is so complicated. If it takes you an hour to bike 20 miles, how fast are you going? Are you going 1 mile an hour? Are you going 40 miles an hour? Or are you going 20 miles an hour? Now, just to be clear, this is not a trick question. The answer is indeed A for 20 miles an hour. And it's the kind of question that if it were to, it may trip you up only if you're an overthinker. And if you read that and you go, well, they must be looking for something else. They can't actually just be asking me if 20 miles an hour is 20 miles an hour. And so that's the only way I could see getting tripped up on that. It's so easy that you assume that they must be up to something and you start overthinking. But no, it's 20 miles an hour. This is the kind of doozy that apparently is causing a lot of confusion among people who want to teach children in New Jersey public schools. And by the way, it's not just New Jersey that's got rid of this test. Other states like New York have abandoned it as well for the same reason. Let's keep going because after all, maybe the other sections are a lot harder. So here's another practice question from the writing section of the test for educators. And this is what you need to master if you want to teach, say, English. So here's this one. Question. Words and phrases that help carry a thought from one idea to the next are referred to as blank. And you have 4 options to fill in the blank: thesis, carriers, transitions, or main arguments. So let's see. You have a word or phrase that carries a thought from one idea to another. What might that be called? And they give you 4 options, and you just have to think of, is it a thesis? Is that, well, I'm pretty sure I've heard the term thesis before. I don't think that's it. Is it a carrier? I don't know that. No, it's a transition. Okay, obviously C is transition. So this is not something that needs to be explained to anyone, I would hope. But the idea that it's challenging for people who want to teach students is obviously a complete and total farce. Or if it's true that it's challenging for people who want to teach students, then that's even more troubling.